Hello everybody and welcome back to another one of those videos where I look at a fortress from the community. This is a community fortress video, once again submitted by Semtexagon, the creator of Rope Gorge, and the first video I did in this series. This fortress is another surface fort and a rather large-scale project, so I hope that you enjoy this one. If you would like to submit a fortress for me to take a look at, you can do that via the DF save sharing room on my Discord, but keep in mind, if you are using a bunch of different mods, I've run into a lot of issues with loading people's forts due to mod compatibility issues. Long story short, if a mod updates in their save, and I'm using a more recent version of the mod than the one that they used in their world generation, it breaks it. And due to the way the Steam Workshop works, I haven't been able to find a fix for that. So a lot of the fortresses that have been submitted have certain mods that make the files unloadable, and I've run into some issues with this, which is why I've skipped a bunch and we're jumping straight to this one because I knew it would load. So, taking a look at this, we have Steelwalls, a member of the fortification of steel, and, of course, of the civilization of the Waning Doors. A great name, and I love the theme for it. So if we dive into the fortress itself, you can immediately see as we scroll around, there's kind of a lot going on here. And once again, a whole bunch of interesting things, because as we can see from the last one, Semtexagon seems to be the at least community king of surface forts. As we scroll down towards the entrance here, we just gonna kind of take a little look-see. We can see some unfortunate bodies that have seemed to have had a rough time. Appears to be a bunch of livestock. Oh, how unfortunate. No idea what killed them. As we scroll through, we can see there's this glorious moat, and a few layers down, things do kind of continue. However, if we go back up, we can see this lovely, lovely entryway. Now, just on the inside, we do have some of the coolest vertical, bars set up for a bridge that I've seen before, at least in this version of the game. I really love how gaudy this is. It's kind of awesome. In here, in the initial kind of entryway, we have all of this kind of central stairway and a bunch of wood storage, probably for powering these furnaces, I would assume, as well as those carpenter shops. Of course, we also have jewelry. We have some ashery and soap-making shops, and this glorious center tavern, which was having a party right when we joined in. If we scroll down one layer, we can see this kind of neat spot. It's right below this river here, or this moat here, and it's their farming location. So it's above ground farming. We got some animals pastured right here, not too many, not too few. We have a butcher shop outside, so in case stuff rots, it's not going to cause issues. And then we also have this food stockpile right in the middle. If we scroll up a layer, we have our general stockpile, as well as a good amount of clothing crafting and stuff set up for storage. If we move up some layers, we start to immediately see that there's actually a well in the center here, which goes all the way down to this little spot, which is connected to this kind of outer area, which is pumped through by these water pumps. So this is an infinite power generator, which I think they got from the wiki, and the way it works is quite simple. You have a pump that is pumping water from one layer below up to the layer above. Maybe I should make a tutorial on how to make these. They're not that complicated, but essentially what it is it pumps from the layer above, water flows down the side, and then down through the middle, and then is pumped back up immediately. So it's a self-powering infinite power generator. The issue with these is they can cause some really weird frame rate things, as they're kind of an exploit, but you can get some pretty hefty amounts of power out of this. Like, this thing is just generating 400 power essentially for free. So that's what we call a Dwarven thermal reactor. As we peer around a little bit, you can see that we do have a millstone connected to that, 2 of them in fact. And then also there is a lever here. I'm not sure exactly what it's connected to, but we can take a peek at the linked items. And if I click to the location, we can see, it is locking this water source here, which is definitely how they filled up their well. As we scroll up here, we can then immediately note that we have kind of an open tavern design. And then up and above, we have our temples, a good few of them, in fact. And they're all just kind of interconnected in this lovely little temple complex. Bedrooms scattered about in a lovely pattern up above. And if we move up another layer, because they have these ramps, we can see 2 gorgeous barracks, and of course, some more offices, and then our meeting areas, I'm assuming for our Baroness right here, as it says. And then we do have these 2 little side offices, which are assigned to the mayor, and then these 2 lower temples, or no, guild halls rather, not temples. And then this fantastically gaudy library with these golden tables and fancy bookplate cases as well. If we look at the library and take a quick peek inside, we can see that they have 284 books currently in this library. That is a massive library. You must have stolen those. No way you got those legitimately. A couple more guild halls over here on the side, and of course space for the captain of the guard, as well as a dungeon. And this is an interesting little dungeon setup. I usually do them as separate rooms, but this is kind of neat. This is very different than the way I build dungeons. So it's just kind of an open space with beds and chains. Keep in mind, though, that if you were to assign this or one of these to a vampire, and someone suspecting random dwarf decided to use one of these beds to take a nap, they might just get eaten. So maybe be aware of that. Beautiful glass, of course, above this grow zone down here. It's actually kind of like a bit of a menagerie. I really quite like that look. And then as we scroll back up, we move up to this upper work in progress area. So, kind of as a note, we do have this moat here, and I'm not immediately noticing a way to drain it, which is a red flag for me with moats. Always have a way to drain your moat. Friends don't make friends, make moats. As you can see, there is a pile of bodies down here, which is a bit unfortunate. I don't know if these are enemy bodies or friendly bodies or what, but it's probably enemy based on the amount of blood right there. Always have a way to drain your moats. It's just kind of like my rule of thumb, personally. This big open area to fight things could be a great spot to station some warriors. And of course, they have these ballistas, which, you know what? I'm going to fire one off just for fun. But yeah, I really like this look of this fortress. They asked me to give them feedback. The main things that I would say is it looks like some of your bedrooms really need another set of cabinets because you do just have so much clothing. That, or alternatively, I would recommend getting rid of some of your clothing. Let's fire this off and see if it actually lands down where it's supposed to. Okay, fire. Anytime? Anytime? I'm waiting. It does say fire. There. Did it not go off? I didn't see it. It looks like it just got blocked by something. Oh, there it goes. Excellent. So I'm just curious to see if this actually makes it down to this lower area. I don't think it's going to. I think it's just going to fly directly off the map. So theoretically, if you did have an enemy army spawn here, this wouldn't be that bad of a setup. But what I would say for this particular ballista setup here is you'd be much better off having it down here with fortifications here and here on either side to fire it through. Up here, I don't really see the purpose outside of looking cool. And, there's nothing wrong with looking cool. But I personally would lower these down to a lower layer just to fire these through. That would be kind of my main criticism. Aside from that, just keep in mind that things can climb these walls. Admittedly, it would be rather difficult for them to do so. So you do have an overhang up at the top, which is a really, really good start. But just kind of keep that in mind. So you may want to put your overhang underneath in the moat down at the bottom, although it is rather unlikely as these are block walls. You'd need to be a pretty talented climber, but I've had some zombies pull off some crazy feats of climbing before. So what I would do initially when digging out this moat is I would go one tile in all the way around and probably build this wall one tile further in and just have one overhang right at the beginning, so there's absolutely no way anything would get out of that water and up, because undead things can do some pretty silly things when it comes to that. Aside from that, this is a very, very well defended fortress. This main entryway is awesome, but I would have a secondary exit on the back, just because I've had fortresses like this before where there's only one way in and one way out, which on its surface is totally fine until 5 dudes do get in the front, and then suddenly it's like, well, I better have an emergency underground bunker. But let's go down a little bit because we didn't really do that initially. So we do have more storage and as well as a basic metalworks industry. And then some more what appears to be food storage down here. And then there is this little central staircase, which we're going to follow down. And now you can very quickly see where they're getting all of the materials to build this fortress from. These very large dugout areas, and as well as a little coffin area and a space for what appears to mostly be pigs, boars, and sows. Yes, that is true. And then we have our prisons, as we previously saw. And then there's this massive square. Don't mind the Borg cube. We go down a little further, and there's actually some water down here. So I don't know if this was accidental or intentional flooding. I'm not sure what happened here, but regardless. And then there's this area down here, which they appear to have stopped mining due to hitting water for some reason. Probably a cavern layer close to here if I had to bet. And then that, or it's just an aquifer, I don't actually know. And then as we go further down, there's this kind of more areas where they're digging out stone. And then there's a flooded stairway. So there's a secondary stairwell going down and down and down and down. And I'm amazed you haven't hit a cavern layer yet. And down and down and down all the way to the bottom. I'm impressed you managed to miss all of the cavern layers. Like, that's actually kind of crazy to me. Now I'm curious about how deep this entire fortress goes. Let's see. Oops, wrong button. Let's scroll all the way down to the bottom. Minus 129. Yeah, that's incredible that you've managed to dig this much out without hitting the bottom. Well, lovely little fortress. I look forward to seeing this one finished. This is Steelwalls, made by Semtexagon on the Discord. Once again, if you would like to send in a fortress for me to have a peek at, feel free to do that, but keep in mind if you're using a whole bunch of different mods, I may not be able to due to compatibility issues. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.